what would this audience need to know about your former self that would frame the conversation we're about to have?
I think that question is so cool. I think it's so interesting. And there's so many different rabbit holes that you can go down in terms of like, this is what I've done, this is what I've achieved, this is where I've been. And I think most importantly, it's recognizing that I have been somebody who has just had an absolute love, passion, and obsession for fitness from a very young age. I wanted to be the very best that I could possibly be, and I've never really kind of fit in, if that's the right frame. I was the guy when all of the kids at my school were going out and drinking and were going out boozing on a Friday night. I was out running marathons and half marathons and running a 15-kilometer paper round every single morning, 7 days a week. Before then, I'd walked to school, and I'd always been a fitness fanatic, and that had evolved into having the dream and the passion of wanting to be a professional footballer. That obviously didn't happen because I wasn't good enough to make the grade. I then fell in love with physique and bodybuilding and competing. My dad used to have a lot of men's health. I'm glad that they were the only magazines that I found at that age under my dad's bed. And then he had the Cass York Iron dumbbell. So I used to spend like weekends just doing bicep curls and press ups and like bike intervals in my room at the age of like 13, 14, whilst just looking at photos of men's health and all these other weird things. That's what I used to get up to in my childhood, and that kind of really led to me competing on stage, and obviously wanted to develop my own physique, and that helped me find the love and the obsession for just coaching and helping other people, because I realized that you can go on your own journey, which is amazing, but the most fulfilling and the most powerful and the most incredible thing is being in service of others. And when you can
Mm.
pass that on and you can create that space and you can give that journey to somebody and give them that level of energy and you can give them that opportunity to really step into what they maybe didn't know was possible, attainable, achievable, I think that's a feeling that just lights you up like nothing else, which is incredible. So I'm somebody who's just fucked about, found out, made a lot of mistakes, and also had a lot of lessons, wins, and cool experiences along the way. And I'm still very much in beta mode and trying to figure it out just now. I don't have all the answers, and although it can be easy to come across like you have all your shit squared away and it's like, this is what we're doing and this is where we're going and this is the business that we're building and this is who we work with. We're all just taking as much data and as much information as possible and trying to understand and trust ourselves enough to be able to make the next best move based upon what we think is best and what we think is right in alignment with us and our values and how we see the world. So I think I'm just on a journey of discovery and exploration and trying to have a good time along the way.
And rightly so, my man. Was the transition into fitness organic? What made you realize that fitness initially was what you wanted to do? Did you have social support? Did your family support a move into fitness? Assuming they did, because your father was, I'm going to assume, kind of dipping his toes into that world if he's rocking, the men's health magazines. And yeah, was it just organic, or did something trigger you to say, oh, I can actually do this for a living?
Initially, my dad was a great rugby player. My granddad was a great rugby player. And I then had got into sports from an incredibly young age. My stepdad had been my football coach for the entirety of my youth. And so obviously like football, athletics, rugby, cross country, like you name it, I did it. And there was obviously always that love of like health and fitness from that perspective. There was a particular turning point where I played football at around under 12s. We had this thing called the Centre of Excellence in North Devon, where all the best players in the local area would come together. And at the end of every single season, you basically had a scorecard. It was like dribbling, shooting, running, heading, fitness, etc. And it was like if you scored more than 3 Cs, you had to retrial to then be able to get back into the development squad for the year after. And for me, I remember I think it was under 12s. I literally got 3 Cs and written all over it was like needs to drop fat, needs to get fitter, needs a diet, and it was in like a yellow highlighter as well. And I remember in that very moment, that was literally the next day when I became so focused on what I ate, how I trained, and what I did, that was really the catalyst and the call to adventure, I suppose. And that really was the initial kind of like beginning of the journey. And then as I progressed and got into the university side, even when I was playing professional football, mate, I was more bothered about going to the gym at the end of the day. All I literally wanted to do, mate, was arms and chest, and that was literally it. And then all of a sudden, all the lads who I was playing alongside all wanted to come to the gym as well, and I just built this army of people who weren't really that bothered about playing football. It was like, let's go to the gym and let's go to the sauna and the steam room afterwards, which was epic. And then I realized, actually, do you know what? People love this, and that also carried on into the university career. And then when I got to my final year, I was coaching on the gym floor, doing a lot of strength conditioning, and then reached the point where I was like, I did the bodybuilding competition. All these people wanted me to coach them, and I didn't have the capacity to be able to facilitate that. And through my own journey, I saw obviously the impact it could have. So that was the kind of the next step for me. But I suppose health and fitness has always been a massive part of who I am and what it's given me. And to tell you the complete truth, for a long period of time, I used my physique as a bit of a mask to protect me because there was a kind of shy, introverted little Joe who was low on confidence, who didn't really feel like he could really give an awful lot to the world. So my way of giving to the world for a period of time, or I believe through the validation that I was getting, was being good at fitness or looking a certain way, which was almost like this protective shield. So that for me was something that I wasn't necessarily aware of at the time, or maybe I was, but I wasn't willing to see it. And now when I connect the dots backwards, I realize and recognize how much of a protective mechanism that gave me. And whilst there was so much good that came from that, of course, there was potential cons or downsides through that process.
Yeah, I get you, mate. In that physique world, what was your biggest lesson from that to take into your coaching business?
The work you do in private is the results that people will see in public, and the work that you have to do in private will require a level of discipline, sacrifice, compromise. You will be challenged so many times, and ultimately it's the relationship that you build with yourself. It's the sets, the reps that nobody else now sees. It's the things that you're saying no to, the things that you're saying yes to. It's that level of clarity, focus, and discipline to say, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to get after, and this is the commitment that I'm going to make to myself, and here's what I'm willing to do to get there. So bodybuilding taught me so much just about the reps that are needed and necessary, and the iterations that you've got to go through to be able to build or create or produce something that is worthwhile is the wrong word, but like to get to an outcome and to get to a result.
Did that type of stuff impact you psychologically at all? Because again, I know quite a few people in the physique world, and just right down to the nutrition and stuff, like it definitely would have had uh some sort of negative impact downstream. However, I know you a few years now, and I don't know, I don't get the same sense off you, bro. Like, if anything, you seem quite energetic, to say the least, every single time I see you. And I couldn't imagine you responding in the same way to, uh, you know, any kind of sport or anything like that. Like I was talking to, you'll know Kieran from TMP, I was talking to Kieran actually on the last episode, and we were saying about how boxing, it used to get me down, bro. Like I used to get really, oh my God, like just the nutrition, the training, everything. Like fighting was the best part about it.
Mhm.
Um, did you experience anything like that in that world?
The greatest gift that it gave me initially was the structure and rhythm and routine, because at the time I was studying for my dissertation. I was working 20 hours on the gym floor. So I was still at university, I was working on the gym floor, and then I was also prepping for a bodybuilding competition at exactly the same time. So that level of just like structure and focus was so powerful for me, because I was able to get up, prep my food, go and do cardio. I was in the library with my 6 eggs in the morning, stinking the place out. And then I would literally be leaving the library at 1, 2 o'clock, dissertation and the work that I'd done, I'm pretty much done, would then go and train, would then basically go and write social media posts and blogs and different, and the rhythm that that gave me was unbelievable. So that was really, really cool. And I think that's what that really gave me. Don't get me wrong, was the hard times, was the tough times, was the challenging points the last few weeks, was I in a very, very difficult spot in terms of just hunger and lethargy, libido, energy, relationship with food. The first ever time that I did it was very, very difficult. And then every single time that I then did it thereafter, the more exposure, the more lessons that you learn, the greater degree of understanding and awareness that you have, and the better systems that you can then really create. So only a couple of times for me, I think, Firstly, the first ever bodybuilding show that I did didn't have a clue what I was doing. I basically did cardio every single day of the week. I lifted every single day. I ate the same 7 or 8 foods pretty much for 16 weeks. And I got to about 3 weeks out. I wasn't being coached at the time or anything of the sort. I was actually I was training alongside an Olympic swimming coach who was obviously training some of the best athletes in the world. And I never forget, I ended up getting piles so bad because I was so fatigued and I was so stressed out and I was so run down. And I was like, no, I need to go to the gym. I need to go and train. And he literally said to me, he was like, mate, he's like, I'm not your coach, but if you were one of my athletes, here's exactly what I would tell you to do. And which was basically sit on the couch, eat some food, and go and get some Anusol and go and chill the fuck out. And if he hadn't said that at that time, I probably wouldn't have made it. And for me, obviously, that was a point of like fatigue and allostatic load that I'd obviously reached because I'd never been there before and I didn't have the systems in place. So the more times that I've done it, the better it became and the easier it became because the more exposed you are. But generally speaking, on the whole, me and Leanne talk about this quite often. It was, if I look at it overall, was actually a real positive. And then I got to the point where I realized if I really wanted to take this seriously, I would have to. I won a lot of the regional shows, and that was amazing. And then I'd go to like the British or the UK Championships or whatever, and I literally looked like I'd never lifted a weight in my life. I was like, "What's wrong with me?" I was like, I said, what am I not doing?" Obviously, turns out I was competing in a lot of non-tested drug shows. So I then realized that if I really wanted to take this to the level that was going to be needed and necessary that I've always operated from, then I'd have to take anabolics. And I looked at where I was and what was important to me and what did I value and how did I want to do things and where did I want to take things and did I consider it? Absolutely. But for me, I realized that actually, do you know what? I don't want to go on that journey. I don't want to go on that path. I had plenty of friends and plenty of people that obviously have done. And I then decided to kind of continue for another year or two in the natural space. And off the back of that, I realized that my physique is so much more than just standing in my pants and looking a certain way. And actually through my athletic endeavors back in the day, I wanted then so much more. And that kind of naturally transitioned. So long-winded answer, but there of course were negatives, but on the whole, I would say it was probably more of a kind of a net positive.
Talk to me about your business during this time. So you were coaching on the gym floor. At some point there, you transitioned into online coaching. What was the tipping point there? I'm going to assume that you capped out and you were like, right, what's the next step here? And then, that's maybe phase one. Phase two, you realize that you have the systems and structures in place to create a thriving online business. And lo and behold, you then turn your attention to showing other fitness professionals how to do this as well. How did that journey play out?
So when I went to university in 2010, I was basically made of chocolate. I was injured. I was injured all the time, and I got to the point where I really couldn't play. And then every single Saturday there was always a Saturday shift in the gym, and the extreme conditioning coach, who was also the gym manager at the university, knew that I was completely obsessed with training. I did my PT qualification as soon as I got there, and I was absolutely obsessed with the thing. So she gave me a Saturday shift. That Saturday shift then turned into me then basically working on the gym floor for free, just just turning up and taking classes and shadowing other graduates at the time. I would then go and would be kind of assisting with S&C sessions with the Scottish Institute of Sport and other bits and bobs. And from 2010 to 2014, I worked on the gym floor as a gym instructor. I took personal training qualifications. I took gym instructor courses. I took spin class sessions. I delivered a lot of like nutrition talks. I went and out of my own way, went and hired some of the very best sports scientists who were lecturing at the university, and I paid them privately to mentor me on training and nutrition. So I was at the time just wanting to absorb as much as possible. I was literally walking the gym floor literally for free, and I was speaking to absolutely every single person in there. I then started a Facebook page and I was just documenting my journey. I was writing blogs every single week. Phil Learning back in the day, the absolute GOAT, used to write the best blogs, and I was like, that's so good. So I was like, I want to do the same. So I was in my own time going to the library, getting books, and then obviously writing blogs for nothing because it was just like, I love this stuff. My mates then started wanting me to coach them. So they'd come and sit on my university bed, and I'd literally be smashing them out a program on Microsoft Word, be printing it off, and then they'd literally honestly walk out my university dorm, and that was it. My mate then, it was a bit of a joke, but created a page called Parish Workouts, and all the football lads were a part of it. And he was just following me and documenting me, picking up my sweet potatoes in Tesco's, and like, this is what Parish says. And it was a bit of a joke, but then became a thing. And then in 2014, obviously, I had all that behind me, and I was obviously doing hours just as a fitness instructor and still taking courses. I did the bodybuilding competition, which I then won. And at that time in 2014, physique competing wasn't really a thing. And then it just went mental because I documented my journey for the year before that. I'd spent 3 or 4 years creating so much content and connecting with people. As soon as I won that show, everyone was like, how can I basically work with you? And I was like, I don't know, because I was doing my dissertation. I was working on the gym floor, and from a contractual perspective, I couldn't. So I was like, all right, I'll start this online coaching thing. So I got my cousin to make me a logo. I started sending out Word documents and plans, and mate, it just started from there. I took on 10 clients, £59 a month. It then went 69, 79, 89, 99, 100, 900. And then the client numbers grew and grew and grew and grew. I graduated from university, and everybody else was getting a quote unquote, what my dad would call a proper job. And I was like, I'm making 4 or 5 grand a month right now. I don't really know how, because I don't really know what this thing is. It's just like a hobby that I've just kind of found that I'm really obsessed with. And I was like, oh, I've just spent 4 years getting a degree. Like everyone else is getting graduate jobs. And I was like, well, I'm just going to carry on this online coaching thing. That's not really a thing, but is a thing, but I'm making money from it and I love it and it's really good. So let's just crack on. And mate, one thing led to the other. Then that kind of grew, evolved and took off. 2016, hired four of my clients who then became coaches. We then grew to over 200 clients, and then just got to a point where I'd been the guy who had then got in great shape, but I didn't really have a business. I'd then been the guy that had built this great business and then got to a point of complete burnout, low energy. I was sacrificing myself. I had no boundaries, no barriers. My energy was in the bin to pretty much the point of burnout. And then I'd been the guy that was like, right, I need to get my shit squared away. Let me look after myself. Let me sort out my business. And then I came in one day from spending a full day doing check-ins. Leanne was like, you value your business and love spending more time doing that than you do with me. And I was like, oh, fuck. I dropped another ball. So I realized that it can't just be me that has been experiencing and going through these challenges. So I was like, there's so many other coaches who must be struggling across body, business, brain, and balance. So I let go of that business because it wasn't as fulfilling in terms of the physique world anymore. Stepped into the coach's coach. That then became the high performance coach. And mate, here we are today with the king.
What skills, traits, and beliefs had to change in you for your business to change?
The first thing is staying power. Like the ability to have a level of staying power and the ability to continue to be consistently good and not occasionally great. Not to get then too high with the highs or too low with the lows, and focus on what are the reps, what are the sets, and what are the 2Ps that I need to put into the machine that people aren't necessarily going to see today. And so I think a huge thing for me was actually just that level of staying power from a skill set perspective to allow myself to stay in the game, because it can be so easy just to ride the highs and the lows and let that get the better of you, or for you to have a good month and then take a step back. So I think that was number one. Skill number two, the greatest gift that working on the gym floor gave me was the ability to first seek to understand and then be understood. It was to allow it to be about everybody else and not actually about you. It was to give people the platform to be able to feel a certain way, and recognizing that everybody has different needs, wants, and values. And your role as a coach is to be able to create space and give that individual that platform to feel heard, and then allow them to go on that journey as thinking partners and just know how to communicate in a more effective way and build relationships with people. The foundation of any great business is built on people. I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't have a lead generation plan. I didn't have this big social media structure and strategy that I wanted to put in place. I just went around and just spoke to lots of people, and I was super passionate and super obsessed with it. And I wanted just to genuinely give my absolute best to people. And that allowed me to build a phenomenal client base, even just from the get-go, from which then obviously everything else built from. So I think staying power, the art of communication and the art of relationships, and being able to communicate effectively. Number three, I threw myself into the deep end straight away, and I would be doing Facebook Lives. I got the opportunity to do a lot of public speaking, and I was terrible initially. but being able to then actually communicate and convey your message in a certain way that will allow you to help somebody, potentially position yourself as an authority, and allows you to speak and communicate in a language that's going to resonate, it's going to relate, and it's going to help people go, that's my guy or that's my girl. So I think they're probably the three biggest things. The stories and the beliefs. One of my favorite quotes is, "You can't be seen as a life-changing presence to some without being seen as a joke or an embarrassment to others," which is by Mark Manson. And it's just realizing that for so long for me, I pretend to be somebody that I wasn't because that's who I thought the fitness industry needed me to be. I'd say things because that's what I thought that I needed to say. So there was this huge misalignment between what do I think that I should talk about? What does everybody else want me to talk about? Versus what do I actually want to speak about? Like, what am I passionate about and what am I excited about? And like, here's what everybody else is doing, but actually, what do I want to do? How do I want to do things? Like, what do I stand for? What do I stand against? What am I excited about? And they're the regeneration phases that you've got to go through. Like we just spoke about the evolutions that you're going through and you have been through. And it's exactly the same. You're either evolving or revolving. And you've got to be okay with developing the alices of sitting in the unknown, sitting in uncertainty, that level of unpredictability. But it's the relationship that you build with yourself to be able to make decisions that you might not have all the answers to, but you believe is the next best step for you, even if that means you've got to let go.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. I've heard you talk about, I don't want to butcher this, or I don't want to do this a disservice, but along the lines of when you make a shift in the individual, you basically make a shift in the business. Again, I've heard you say this many times, but um, it's a change in energy, or it's an evolution in energy, and it's basically what your high performance coaching business is based on, which is basically enhance the individual, and the rest will take care of itself. Am I right about that?
Yeah, mate, people buy people, not coaching.
Yeah.
People buy people, not coaching. And the greatest asset isn't AI, it's not tech, it's not systems, it's not all these things. Of course, are they really, really important? Absolutely. But the most important asset in your business is you, especially when you operate in a service-based industry, especially when you're in a building industry. And it's going to be your energy that's going to pull and it's going to radiate your people towards you because you can follow a copy and paste strategy, structure, plug and play that might get you some success. And externally, that might make you some cash. And if that's your game, then absolutely phenomenal. But I have played the game of let's make more money, and I realized that money solves money problems, and that's great. But then I also realized the fulfillment, the alignment, the people that I work with, the way in which I speak, the way in which I convey and communicate. Like, is there a level of alignment, and does it complement who I am? Or am I having to constantly second guess myself? Am I always constantly treading on eggshells thinking, what should I talk about in comparison to what do I want to say? People buy into you because of who you are, what you stand for, what you stand against, and your big ideas. And without that, you're then literally just the same as everybody else. So like our ethos back in the day was get the person thrive and the people and profit will follow because you are the brand, you are the USP. Now, like our biggest piece is like we help you build a business your way, which kind of ties into that aspect and that element as well. Because this is big difference between what you think you should want versus what you actually want.
Mm,
And I believe you've got to play the game of this is what you think you should want to then be able to set yourself free from that, to
yeah.
then be able to get clear of what you want. And that goes back to what I said at the start. Like the more you fuck about, the more you find out. It's like you've got to be able to go through those iterations. But the energy that you bring, how you show up, the standards that you set, that will determine how you think, how you behave, the types of people that you'll attract, the types of people that you'll bring into your world. And it will increase your capacity. Because as you grow, it doesn't get easier. You just have to get better. And I
Mm,
think that's often a big misconception. It's like, oh, if I grow my business, yeah, it's amazing. But it's like once you get to a certain point, it's like more growth just means more friction, more pain, more problems, feels heavier, feels harder. You build a business that feels like a prison. You optimize for this level of freedom because you wanted to run your own business and now you feel stuck, you feel trapped, and you now feel limited. You may be working with clients that you don't want to work with who don't necessarily align to you. And then it's like, oof, I feel slightly disconnected now because I'm making good money and I've now got this business, but there's this like gap that you sit within, and then you feel a little bit of guilt. And then it's like, well, I can't let go because now I'm servicing these people and I've gone from nothing to something. And now you've got to go from something to the next thing, which means you've got to step back to then to step forwards, which requires so much courage, confidence, trust, backing in yourself, which in your head is really hard because we're not wired for change and transformation and evolution. We're wired for safety and survival. So there's so many parts of you that have got you by the scruff of the neck. That's like, what are you doing that for, idiot? Like, take a step back. And then also, when your dad, my stepdad, was like, when are you going to get a real job? And then I'm like, fuck you. I'm going to show, that's my activation energy. Thank you so much. I put that in my back pocket and off I go. Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know, so really deep down, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just kind of like, that kind of affected me because I'm also like, well, how long is this going to last? And then you get to a point where it's like, well, I've now used that activation energy to go from like here to here, but now I've got to let go to then be able to step into this next phase, which feels so uncomfortable and so unknown. So like, you are your greatest asset, and your business is a mirror. Your business is your business is just one big personal development journey. And the
It
battle
is. It's
and the
the next
challenge,
course.
yeah, it absolutely is. And it takes so much, it would take so much of you because you do have to put yourself out there, which means that I'm not going to make but my mates then take the piss, took the piss out of you. You have to then go on the internet and basically put yourself on camera. And then you also have people who just, again, like you open yourself up. And these are the costs and these are the trade-offs that nobody really talks about. But that's almost the price that you have to pay. It's just the relationship that you build with yourself. That's the most powerful, the most important thing, because when everything's great, it's amazing. But what about when it's hard, it's challenging, your back's against the wall, clients are leaving, things aren't going your way, things are a little bit slower, you're putting in so much work and you don't feel like you're getting anything in return, or you make a big decision in whatever that looks like for your business, and you're like, people are like, you're an idiot, you shouldn't do that. Why are you doing that? You're already really successful. You've got all this validation, and you just go, nah, cut the cord, it's not for me anymore. Like, that's the level of like, I don't know what the answer is right now, but I'll figure it out because that's who I am, that's what I do, and that's what I'll always do.
Mm.
And it's that kind of like playing to win mentality. What's my next move? What's my next step? And when you do that, you can start to play for the love of the game rather than just the how do I put 4-4-2 behind the ball and then just try and protect myself because I've created something. And I want to give people the permission to allow themselves to build a business that feels like an extension of them because that's enough. That's the real thing behind the thing. It's like people need you as you are right now.
Mm.
That's the difference. That's the difference maker. And why? Because I spent so much of my time pretending to be somebody that I wasn't, or thinking this is who I needed to be, or chasing certain things and then getting them. And do I believe you need to go through that journey for yourself? Absolutely. But it's realizing that you will find your people. But in order for your people to find you, you have to be able to find yourself for them to be able to find you, to connect with you and your values. And that's when this shit gets fun, because we love connection. We want belonging. We want a sense of togetherness, and we want to be part of something that's bigger and greater than just ourselves. And business can be really isolating and really lonely.
Yeah, that it can indeed, mate. I was thinking of a number of people, one person in particular, and she's an amazing girl. And I remember a conversation that I was having with her, and I remember just saying, like, she was constantly seeking more. And I remember saying, look, what if this is just it? And what if you just have to make peace with this and become the best version of yourself living like this, you know? And I remember saying, but what if I just want more? Like, what if I just want to live in Dubai and drive a Lamborghini? And I remember thinking, like, if you know if she hasn't like had that experience, she needs to have it first, which is kind of what you were saying. Like she needs to have that experience to be able to contrast it to say, do you know what? That's not truly what I want. You know, it's the same sort of it's the same thought process. Like I suppose you do have to fuck around and find out, as you so eloquently put it, in order to truly know who you are, what you want, what your values are, what you're willing to work for, what you're willing to show up for. Um, what do you think some of the red flags are for someone who is, I don't want to say unaware, but maybe, Colin Walker calls it like a tug. It's like, you don't quite know the true direction that you want to take it, but you just know that you're not happy with what's going on currently. Like, what are some of the red flags that you see in coaches that maybe they need to pay attention to?
Hmm. I'm working with a performance coach right now, and he said something to me. He said, I said to him, what am I not seeing right now? And he said to me, that's not for me to say. He said, my question back to you would be, what are you not wanting to see right now? And the analogy in my head is like, when somebody comes around to the gaff and then you're like, there's stuff all over the kids have basically just got stuff all over the place. And you're like, right, smash that in there, put that in there. And it's like, you basically just clean the decks. And then somebody walks in, they're like, oh, this is a nice house. And you're like, yeah, don't go in there. And it's like, it's kind of like that. It's like, what am I not wanting to see? And often for me, that was like, I was being busy, but I wasn't being productive. It was actually panic that was masked as productivity. What was control wasn't control, it was fear. I was validating so much of myself based upon like the amount that I could do, the amount of work that I could get through, and pretty much just spending all my time in just like coaching and delivery that wasn't really being effective. I was just taking up the hours because then I didn't really know what else to do within that space. Um, I think some of the other red flags are, what do I think I should talk about in comparison to what do I actually want to talk about? Because there's a big disconnect there. I think it's just your rhythm and your energy and actually how you feel.
Hmm.
Like if your energy is off and you can't see yourself doing this in however long of a time, it's like there's probably a slight disconnect. And if you find yourself resenting, you're not as effective, you are procrastinating, you are constantly avoiding, and you're then always reliant upon knowing what to do based upon what somebody else tells you. It's like, this is the formula for success, and this is what you need to do, and this is where you need to go. It's like, are you then just copying somebody else's success system rather than creating your own? So they were some of the things for me because, mate, like my biggest fear was just losing everything. It's like, well, what if I've just winged this? What if I just made this up? What if I now fall flat on my face? Because now I've actually got something. It's like, well, actually, when am I going to get exposed? When am I going to get found out? There's the fear in my mind of like, well, yeah, what if this is just a dream? Then there's the real fear, which is the fear of judgment, the fear of criticism. The fear of like, for me especially, like not being liked, which goes back to protecting myself because then I hide myself because if I pretend to be somebody that I'm not, then it's easier because I can hide behind that because they're not really truly seeing me. So it was a safety mechanism, hence like the physique that I spoke about earlier. That was a defense mechanism for me because then I was almost like trying to protect myself from myself. But I think these are the iterations and the lessons that somebody has to go through, and your business will always feel broken. And that's okay. It's not about trying to fix it. It's just about being okay with the uncertainty and the unpredictability, and then just having clarity around what your next move is. And shifting the frame from how do I achieve more to how do I want to live? Like, how do I want
Beautiful.
to live? And that might be more. But my biggest lesson has been actually we want more, but more comes with complexity. And then when you get complexity, actually what you really want is simplicity.
Mm,
But it can be so easy to become buckaroo because you've then got all these things that you're just carrying and building and building and building and building. And then you feel like everything comes through you. You feel this weight of pressure, this weight of responsibility. And then it's like, wow, and that's when it feels hard and heavy. When actually it's like, what do I really want? If I speak about myself, simplicity, ease, fun, enjoyment. Like if it was fun and easy, what would that look like? It's like if you can start to optimize for that, what would you stop? What would you start? What would you delete or eradicate? What are you doing that you don't want to be doing that you think that you need to be doing? It's like that's the path that I'm trying to follow and trust just now. Um, but you've got to play the game to set yourself free from the game, I believe.
mm. Beautiful, mate. Final question here, Joe Parish. Are we humans having a spiritual experience, or are we spirits having a human experience?
I can't give you an answer because I actually don't know, and I've not thought about that long enough. And it could be easy for me to be able to pull something out of random and just go, mate, I think it's this. But to tell you the honest truth, um, I actually don't know. I probably have to take some time and space to actually think about that because it's a really good question, and then for me to come back to you. I'll reflect because I'll give you a shit answer. I'll reflect it back to you.
Uh, Mate. So I dance between the two quite often. The, oh my God. Because I've posed this question to quite a few people, and it's always one that I like to finish up with just to see the response, which is quite often, hey, bro, too deep for this podcast. But it used to be we are humans having a spiritual experience.
Hmm.
And then I asked it to someone and I said, well, and they again threw it right back at me. And I said, well, we're humans having a spiritual experience. And then they said, but there could be duality. And I was like, well, explain to me. And they said, well, energy can't be created or destroyed. So where does your energy go when that human disappears? Now we're back to square one. So I don't know, bro. I don't know. This is the answer that I'm searching for with this podcast. Forget everything else. I just want to know people's take on that just so that I can become a little bit more enlightened with every single episode.
I think it's so cool when you start to strip back the layers and you start to ask yourself questions, you know, like in your brain just goes, it's like me and Leanne love Brian Cox, and it's like and you look at the stars and the moon and the galaxy and all that stuff, and you're literally like, none of this stuff even really matters anyway, because it just blows when you zoom out that far, you're like, what even are we? What even is this? Like, none of this even really matters in 2 or 3 generations' time. Nobody will even remember who you are. And it's like, oh, mate, it's crazy. So I love questions like that because it really does almost remove you from the reality and like the I don't want to say like the importance or the seriousness of the now, but it does allow you just to kind of go, well, none of this really matters in the grand scheme of things anyway. So do you know what? It's like, and I think that's really really cool because it just gives you a greater sense of I think like it's almost like freedom and play rather than like this level of like it has to be like this because it's like this and I have to do this because I do that and it's like yeah it's like well I don't really know because when you zoom out far enough
Yeah,
who even what are we anyway?
you zoom out far enough, you can't see the earth. Joe Parish, you are an absolute legend, my friend. Thank you for coming on. If there was one question that I should have asked you but didn't, what would it have been?
Another great question. There's one question that you should have asked me. You didn't quite. It's so interesting because in my head I'll speak out loud because my goal is to be as open as possible. The automatic response to that question is, what could you have asked me that would have given me some value that I could have added to a listener that might have potentially made their life better. And then you end up playing a fucking crazy game of Tetris because you're like, well, what even? It's so interesting how automatically that goes straight to like what can I do to come across in a certain way? And it's like, let me share this enlightening value with you that's going to help you. And then the other side of me is like, actually, what would be a really interesting question that I'd actually be really excited to explore on my own level? That's kind of, in a way, like almost, I suppose, selfish, that would allow me to unpack. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's like the questions that you ask allow you just to go further and deeper and just allow you to understand your thinking. And often there isn't even an answer. They're like what I just said earlier. It's like, well, is it this or is it that? And there's different parts of you. So if I ask it from a what question should have asked me, if I look at it externally, the question that you should have asked me is where is the fitness industry right now and what the coaches need to be focusing on if they want to win in 2025 and beyond with the world of AI and tech and everything else. If you wanted to ask me personally, depends upon the context or frame. I would say, what do you really want? What did you think that you wanted? And then what did you actually really want? And then number two, probably deep questions, but it's like, what are the decisions that you're currently putting off and what are the emotions that you're not willing to feel? Because on the other side of that is the life that you want to build and the life that you want to be able to go and create. So what's the barrier and what's the thing that's stopping you from being able to access the next level of you? They would probably be the internal, external, I think.
Hold on to question one for episode two with Joe Parish. Where is the fitness industry going in under 2.5 minutes? And then tell me what decision you're putting off in under 2.5 minutes.
The fitness industry is going to connection, belonging, identity. Who does somebody become when they step into your world? Everybody thinks that AI is, AI will support and complement you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, people buy into people. People want human connection. People want belonging. They want to be a part of something that's bigger and greater than themselves. And the power of you now being able to build that level of connection, community, and being so much more than just a transactional, informational machine is going to be huge. The ability to tell stories, build relationships, and create community events and experiences is going to be super, 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 super integral for anybody now moving forwards and as they progress. AI will help you with the processing and will help you with your ideation and your creation and will help you with systems and processes, and it's going to speed things up so much more, which will give you so much more freedom, I believe, to then be able to focus on the stuff that you're really good at. And that's why you are the greatest asset. You are your greatest USP, and that's why people are buying into people. People want more human connection in a disconnected world, and that's why you can't just put up, here's 5 ways to get more protein in, because everybody's bored of that and they've seen that storytelling is story selling. And that's where you're now going to really start to win, when you can capture somebody's mind and somebody's heart because they're like, you get me. That's the level of relevance, relatability that allows you to obliterate anybody else, and then you become the go-to for that individual. That's the game that everybody should be trying to play. And also, you've got to have a great product and you've got to be a great coach and you've got to be fantastic at what you do in terms of the results that you get. But it's more the personable skills, I believe, that's super integral.
What decisions are you putting off? What's the biggest decision you're putting off?
The biggest decision that I've been putting off is what do I really want? The biggest decision that I'm putting off is what do I really want?
Hmm.
Um, I won't explore any further than that for just the considerations of this episode. But the biggest decision that I'm putting off is what do I really want? Because that's the thing that's stopping you from being able to access the next level, I believe. So it's probably being able to own that, step into that, and take the next step. that's the thing that will then set you free. But it's the hardest fucking thing because it's so challenging and so difficult because you're stepping away from safety, certainty, the unknown. You're moving into uncharted territory, and there's always these things in the back of your head that's like, well, what if isn't that, and what if that isn't right, and what if that isn't correct? And there's all these little things that always go on. But it's being able to trust yourself enough to be able to take the next step. So the wheels are in motion in terms of those pieces, which hadn't been for quite a while. And in all honesty, that would have been the thing that had been impacting me and affecting me the most. It was stopping me from being able to get the very best out of me. So when I go back to like, you are the greatest USP, same thing. What decisions was I putting off? What was I avoiding? What was I not doing? It's like I didn't need more business systems and better business structure and like a better strategy. It's like, no, I just needed to be able to go and implement the thing that I was almost avoiding because it felt heavy and hard. And I knew it was going to challenge me and it was going to take up a lot of energy. And it was potentially also going to create some conflict and some difficult conversations, which is like, nah, not today, thanks, mate. I'll then go and take another step away because there's already enough stuff that's currently going on. So
Beautiful, mate. Joe, I appreciate your time, brother. You're an absolute legend. Let's discuss that question over dinner sometime when me and Katrina are out in Portugal.
mate, I look forward to it. I'm absolutely buzzing to see the boys as well. It will be so good. The work that you're doing is absolutely incredible, matey. You're a huge leader, figure of inspiration, as somebody that I look to model in so many aspects and so many areas of my life. So, dude, I massively appreciate you and your clients, the gym owners, and the guys who obviously work alongside you. Have a great leader. So I appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, likewise, brother. Thank you so much, man.